To unpack that topic for us, we've got Prof, who is one of the very young professors I have seen. If I look at his CV, which again has been outlined in your pack, I will really summarize. Prof. Adrian Saville, he is at the moment the Chief Investment Officer of Canon Asset Management. He's a professor in economics and also has a great contribution in the growth of talent and skills in our country by lecturing at the University of Witwatersrand. He is a visiting lecturer at GIBS. He has won awards in excellence in teaching at GIBS for years in succession, 2007, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And he has been nominated the GIBS Top Speaker of the Year Award. On that note, we would like to welcome you, Prof, to come and speak to us on the topic indicated. Thank you very much.
What a wonderful opportunity to be able to tell a room full of 200 auditors the answer in 20 minutes. This is a rare luxury. I'll take full advantage of it, I hope. If I press this, will it move? How do I move? There we go. Okay. In trying to make sense of the complexity and the challenges of the world in which we live and audit, I think we can take some of the most powerful lessons, not by trying to figure out what the future looks like, but rather by learning from the past. History is an extraordinary teacher. And the history that I would like to go to is October 1974, where one of the greatest boxing contests of all time took place in Zaire. This was the rumble in the jungle between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. And if ever you wanted to figure out how tough it is to compete in a challenging, uncertain, difficult time, imagine being Muhammad Ali going to this contest. Ali had recently lost his world heavyweight challenge against Joe Frazier. That was 2 years before. Going into the fight, the bookmakers had quoted Ali at 10-to-1 odds. If you quoted at 3-to-1 odds in boxing, you shouldn't get out of bed. He's been quoted at 10-to-1. Muhammad Ali's coach, Angelo Dundee, says to him, this is a contest that you are unlikely to win, and his coach advises him not to go to Zaire. Eventually he goes. We know that because the fight takes place. Just before the fight, Ali's camp doctor gets pre-approved flight plan so that there is an aeroplane on the runway in Kinshasa with the engines running, with flight clearance to Italy, where the best neurosurgeons in the world are at the time. On paper, it's pretty clear. Even Ali's camp is saying this is going to be a tough contest. Foreman is asked in the pre-match interview, what are your last thoughts? And George Foreman says, I've been praying that I don't hurt Muhammad Ali too much. Foreman, going into the fight, had a record of 40 contests. Of those 40, he had won 40, and he had won 38 by knockout in the first or second round. This is a fierce challenge. This is true competition. Foreman is 10 years younger than Ali. He's 10 kilograms heavier, and he's 2 inches taller. They have to fight at 5 o'clock in the morning because this is to satisfy US television broadcasting rights. And when they fight at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's 90% humidity in Kinshasa. This is like going into a sauna. and fighting with a bear and a hangover. This is a tough environment. If you follow boxing at all, you'll know the result. Muhammad Ali won this contest, and he took the ring, the WBC, and the WBA heavyweight titles away from George Foreman. And in doing this, he changed the rules of boxing. And he demonstrated that the true competitive strengths are not those that you see at the surface, but those that are buried deep beneath. And this is my perspective on the extraordinary lessons that Ali gave us in how to handle competitive, turbulent, difficult times. And if I were to draw those lessons down into some principles, the lessons or the principles that I would reach for include Ali's recognition that he needed to zoom in and figure out what his greatest competitive strengths are. And he also needed to zoom out to figure out what the big picture was. And what was he not seeing in his competitive strength? What in the environment could jump out the closet on a Thursday afternoon and blow your business up? This is the importance of zooming in to get that fine detail and zooming out to see the big picture. So when Ali zoomed in, he recognized his greatest competitive strength. And his greatest competitive strength can be captured in just one word: agility, exceptional speed. Ali in one interview says he is so fast that he was in his hotel room the other night and he turned out the light and he was in bed before the room was dark. Ali is fast. We know this in the one-liner: float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. He has incredible agility. And this is an important competitive strength of any business that is going to endure, and indeed any country that is going to endure. We have to be able to move with the times, innovate, iterate, reinvent ourselves, and build increasingly strong systems and networks. When he zoomed out, Ali recognized that he had a fundamental weakness. And his fundamental weakness was that whilst he could run around the ring, it was only a matter of time before George Foreman caught him. And when George Foreman caught him, he would hit him and he would knock Ali out. That was Ali's aha moment when he zoomed out. And his conclusion was that if I'm going to compete successfully and survive this extraordinary challenge, I have to build absorptive capacity. I have to build the ability to go the distance. Not to go 2 rounds with Foreman or 8 rounds, but 15 rounds as world heavyweight titles went at that time. So what happens when we zoom in and zoom out in the current world? What does the world look like? Well, I thought it would be interesting to zoom in first. And I zoom in by borrowing from Rita McGrath, who publishes this fascinating study in the Harvard Business Review earlier this year. Rita McGrath studies 5,000 firms, and she asks a simple question: are you able to produce uninterrupted profit growth in real terms ahead of economic growth? In other words, is your business able to grow market share in inflation-adjusted terms on a global basis? 5,000 firms. Over the period 2000 to 2004, she establishes that just 7% of these 5,000 are able to do this over a 5-year period. That's a pretty sobering number. 7% of firms are able to achieve uninterrupted growth. When she goes to 2005 to 2009, the heart of the global financial crisis, the figure is even more sobering. Just 4% of firms are able to do this. 4% of 5,000 firms produce uninterrupted profit growth. This tells us that the real competitors, the true competitors, are a small set. And in turn, I wonder then, what do they look like? Is this just a random gathering of 4% of 5,000 firms, or do they have common attributes? So at Cannon Asset Managers, we went and did the same research. We looked at 160 listed South African companies over the 10-year period, 2001 to 2010. And we found in the first 5 years, 15% of the 160 firms produced uninterrupted growth. Over the second period, 2% of firms produced uninterrupted growth. This reinforces Rita McGrath's findings. First, that the environment matters. The big picture matters. If you are in easy economic times, you stand a better chance of doing well. When you are in tough economic times, and in a moment I'll build the argument that we remain in tough times, success goes to the minority. 2% or 4%, choose your number. Success goes to the minority. The really interesting attribute, though, of Rita McGrath's research, which we found carried through in our own study, is that the competitors, the successors, didn't have the common business school attributes. This wasn't about leadership or strategy or diversification or the industry that you were in or the age of the firm or the strength of your balance sheet or your geography. In fact, it had to do with just 2 attributes. And the attributes I will summarize in one word: Ali. Let me break it down into 2 words: absorption and agility. That these firms that are able to produce uninterrupted profit growth and thrive regardless of the macroeconomic environment have common explanatory factors. They include stable leadership. They include firms that don't take massive bets, but rather fire bullets instead of cannonballs. That they have a portfolio of ideas, that they constantly iterate to try and figure out new ways of doing things. And that these attributes develop into the common aspects of absorption and agility. You might be interested to know that over the 10-year period of the 160 listed companies, only 3 produce uninterrupted profit growth: Mr. Price, Truworths, and Clientele Life. An extraordinary result, and it's not the usual suspects. It's not MTN, it's not SAB Miller. When we look even closer, what we find, though, is that while South African firms have some competitive attributes, there are some specifically powerful aspects in the competitive landscape that I think really equip South African businesses. Here are some ideas. The first is, as the DG has just highlighted, we rank first in the world in the World Economic Forum competitiveness in compliance, auditing, and reporting. First in the world. This is an extraordinary result, and you deserve recognition and applause for this, for contributing to this country.